Hey everyone, it's Paul here with Tool Metrics, and I've got a couple updates for you before we dive into the project. First, we hit 25,000 subscribers just a couple weeks ago, so thank you to everyone who has subscribed and followed along with my journey. And also, one other thing, we've got another round of Vets Turn going, so that's round 3, where we provide a complete wood turning kit for U.S. combat veterans. We've got 6 of those to give away and bring folks on board into kind of what has become a bit of a wood turning club for veterans. So check that video out and apply. There's still another week to go if you're interested in applying for that. Now this week's project, this is a fun project for me. It's been kind of a bucket list item for a long time. I've wanted to work with mesquite. My friend Tom sent up a chunk of mesquite that he found in his neighborhood down in Arizona. Had it trucked all the way up here to Minnesota for my turning pleasure. I turned 2 bowls from it, one live edge and one traditional. They were twins in the log, kind of oriented like this, and maybe like that. Anyway, so this was kind of a fun shape for me as well. I tried to go for kind of a Navajo kind of desert art shape with that. But what I'm going to show you is this live edge, and I was thrilled that the bark hung on. Sometimes it does. I find it's more likely to hang on the sooner you turn it after it's cut. That's been my experience. I'd be interested to hearing your experience with it. Yeah, it just came out really good. I felt I really enjoyed turning mesquite. Very dense, solid, heavy wood. That log was 150 pounds and it wasn't that big, but for mesquite, pretty good size. So anyway, follow along. I'm going to go through step by step, give you some commentary, and I will answer any questions that you might have if you ask those down below. So here we go.
Now I get started by roughing out a blank using a chainsaw, and a lot of times you'll see me do this at the bandsaw, but given that this log weighed about 150 pounds, I decided to do all the work using the chainsaw, and it goes really quick, just using the template here to shape it and just knocking off the 4 corners. And you can see, it's pretty rough, but we'll get it round pretty quickly on the 3 horsepower lathe. And here I'm mounting a good size faceplate onto the blank, which really helps stabilize it for the turning operations. Then I just start by facing it off, just to kind of get things round. And after I get that side flattened, I'll start to work on the other side and just kind of removing enough material to get it balanced out in the lathe so I can start spinning a little bit faster. It's kind of slow going initially with this way out of round chunk of wood. That's slow going with that mesquite. Then once it's round, just starting to get a shape defined to it. Here I'm using a pull cut. You'll see me go interchangeably between a pull cut and a push cut. And I think it's important to hone your skills on all the different cuts. Just so you can be versatile, and also it gives you the ability to use all the sharpened edges on your gouge to minimize the trips back and forth through the grinder. And with this dense mesquite, I did quite a bit of sharpening during this project. Now you might also notice that I'm not always turning uphill, which is kind of what you want to do to get the best surface finish. When I'm roughing something out like this, I don't really care about the ideal surface finish. We're going to be removing a lot more wood here, so I'm going to turn in both directions and not really worry too much about that. Now here I'm just defining a little bit of an OG up near the rim. I like to flare these live edge bowls in toward the top. Just kind of gives them an interesting shape. I'm just defining the tenon. So I use a good sized chuck and so a large tenon to really help stabilize on these large bowls. Now you see I've got my robust curved J-curve tool rest positioned on the outside of the bowl. Now that rest is really intended to be used on the inside. There are other curved rests for the outside, but it's fine. It really serves its purpose just fine for me here. I don't own that type of outside curved rest, but this, I think it's a 14-inch J-rest, does a great job inside the bowl, and I would say a pretty good, better than stock tool rest job on the outside of the bowl. See how it's given me a good ability to just kind of follow the whole contour of the bowl, even though it's an unusual shape because of the OG that I turned into the near the top. It still just gives such a good size span. It makes it easier to turn on the outside. And just doing some finish cuts on that inside curve, that OG. This is tricky up there because it's not, I'm turning a little bit of air up near the top of that, so I'm trying to lighten up the touch a little bit so I get a decent surface finish. There's still going to be some sanding involved up there. You know, I'm not Ashley Harwood and can't get a perfect surface finish right off the gouge, but pretty good. And then I can clean it up with this eraser tool, also known as a negative rake scraper. And now I'm working on the inside. And now this is slow going with the super dense mesquite wood. So this was probably took twice as long to scoop this out as I would say a lot of the local hardwoods, maple and so forth that I would use. So very slow going. Also, I found that because it was so heavy, I had to keep the lathe spinning probably at a speed that was a little bit slower than I normally would for a bowl this size. And you notice I'm pushing toward the bottom, not side to side. That works a little bit better. You're not fighting that end grain as much, and you can get a better surface and move along probably almost twice as fast. You'll notice in all the speed competitions that Ashley and some of the other turners, that's how they gain a lot of speed by doing that. Now I'm using a bowl bottom gouge to clean up the bottom. That's a deep bowl. So that bowl bottom gouge really comes in handy because otherwise I'd have a pretty jagged bottom, and on a bowl that size it'd be tough to clean up. And then you saw me cleaning it up inside again with the eraser scraper. Now I'm packing it up. Now normally I would not do this. I really, mesquite is kind of known for cracking. And so I wanted to make sure that I gave it the best chance to dry slowly and not crack. It did crack a little bit, not too bad, but I just plugged them up with some resin that I added some dye to, and just kind of caked that on. And here's my handy dandy fancy dust collection mount kit using my chair, and then sanding using a angled sanding tool, and that really is a good ergonomic way to sand this. And I used actually a 40 grit on this because it was so tough sanding. So I used that 40 grit. That made short work of sanding out the resin and also the tool marks that were left behind. Then I just mounted it up on the vacuum chuck and cleaning up the bottom after it was all sanded out, and just add a nice little detail in there. It's kind of fun to do that when you have a vacuum chuck. It makes it really easy to get in there and work on the bottom of the bowl. All right, then I applied a couple coats of a wipe-on polyurethane. This is a real good durable finish. It soaks in nicely. It's a very easy wipe-on, wipe-off kind of finish. You can see I'm really dabbling it on. When I do a live edge like this, I really dab on a lot of finish and let it soak into the bark, so that that makes it look nice, and it also extends the hold of the bark.
All right, that's that. Thanks for watching, and let me know down below if you have any questions. I will answer whatever I can, and I hope you'll subscribe and come back for more woodworking, wood turning, and tool-related videos here at the Tool Metrics channel. Take care.